dog is teaching me about God. But because they have changed the back end of what I use to stream in live with you guys, I'm going to go check and make sure that I'm actually coming in live, because before it did not look like I was live. All right. It looks like now I am live. All right. Don't you love when technology updates? And I feel like there's people behind the scenes and they're like, we're going to make this better. We're going to make this better for everyone. We're going to add in more features. And then you log in and you're like, everything looks different and I can't find anything. So if you are joining in, comment, tell me where you're coming in from. Let me know where you are in the world you are. And are you a pet person? Are you a pet person? Do you have pets? So we have these two dogs. Okay. And one is this little Chihuahua hot dog. She's called a Chiweenie. She's actually my daughter's emotional support dog. And I got her because her therapist years ago said it would be great for her to have a dog to go with her to the hospital while she's doing her follow-up treatments and things like that. And at the time, I didn't really want a dog, but we got this dog. And there's a whole story behind that. This dog was meant to be my daughter's dog. And I have learned so much from this dog, from goal setting to alignment to all this crazy stuff, right? So we have this dog. Well, she is now really old. I think she's like 12 or 13 years old, and she has Cushing's, which is basically like this tumor in her brain. And so she is now blind because the tumor pushes against the eyes, and she has to take medication every day. And she gets like very confused because the tumor is taking over her brain, right? So we thought like last Thanksgiving that this dog was going to go. We thought maybe she might have a couple of weeks left. I mean, it was that bad. Like she wouldn't walk. She was just in her bed. We were like all prepared. People came for Thanksgiving. We all said goodbye to the dog. She has had an alarmingly incredible comeback. So she's still blind. She's still, you have to be careful. The other day, literally, I had her on my lap. She was sleeping and she peed on me. So that was fun. So she's still a little confused, right? Like she's not great, but she's wagging her tail. She's eating. She's not in pain. She's still living her best life. All right. But she does have to get a pill every single morning, right? And if we miss the pill, then she starts to have more symptoms. Well, we have another dog who's a big, huge black lab mix mutt. Okay. And she's younger and she's healthier and she doesn't need a pill, right? She doesn't need this pill. And so in the morning, they both get their food. And then little Eleanor, old lady, gets her pill, and we put a little bit of peanut butter on it so she'll eat her pill willingly, right? And Holly, the younger, healthier dog, stands there like, why am I not getting something? How come she's getting a little peanut butter treat and I'm not getting anything? Like you can tell she is ticked off. And if we forget to give her pill and it's like, oh, we have to go back and give her pill and they already ate, and you open the thing and you open up the peanut butter, like the younger dog will come running from wherever she is, like somebody's getting a treat and I'm not getting a treat. Why am I not getting a treat? Now you could argue and say, well, why don't you just give her a little treat every morning too? But she's fat. She can't get a treat. She's had enough treats because she's fat. So we're not going to just give her a treat every morning for no reason, right? And as I was doing this the other day, and poor little Holly, the younger dog is sitting there and she's looking up at me like, why don't you love me? Why won't you give me the treat? What did I do to not deserve a treat? Do you love the older dog more than me? Is that why you give her a treat every morning? Like, aren't you paying attention to me? And as I was watching this and thinking this, little dog and her sad little face, right? I was like, I wonder if God ever has this feeling about us. I'm giving the old dog the pill because she needs it to survive. If she doesn't get that pill, she is going to get worse. Her tumor is going to grow faster. She's going to die earlier. She's also going to pee all over my house, which is not going to be great. Like she needs that medication for her survival. The younger dog doesn't, but the younger dog doesn't know that. The younger dog only knows she's not getting the treat. And I think sometimes, we look at other people and we look at their situation and we think, well, why is this person getting this and I'm not? Why is this person getting this, what looks like something good, and I'm not? When the reality is the older dog is going to die. She's can't see. Like the young dog doesn't know that the old dog can't see. The young dog doesn't know that the dog's blind. She doesn't know that she's kind of dealing with this, I call it doggy dementia. Like you'll put her food in front of her and she can't find it. So there's something going on in her brain, right? Like she can't even sniff out the food. Surprisingly, she can always figure out where the closet is for the food to kind of try to get into the food. But like if you put it in front of her, she's confused. She can't find it. Every now and then she walks into walls, she'll get disoriented. Like she knows the layout of the house really well, but if you put her in a new place or something somewhere where it's not supposed to be, she might bump her head in it, right? It takes her a while when she goes outside to figure out how to get back into the house. Her life is harder, right? Her life is harder, not being able to see, not being able to figure out what's going on. Like her life is harder. But the younger dog doesn't know that. She doesn't know that, oh, I have a better life. I can see, I can hear, I can find my food. All she knows is this older dog is getting a treat. And we never know what's going on in somebody's circumstances. We never know what's going on in somebody's life. We never know what physical ailments people are dealing with. A lot of people deal with things physically that we don't know what those issues are, right? So I have inflammation issues and I have nerve issues, and I have really, really, really bad knees from lots of different reasons. Part of it is my brothers and I were just born with terribly shaped knees. Like when they were giving out good knees in heaven, we missed that line. I also had years, like decades of dance that have overextended my ligaments. I have looser ligaments. My knees are just a mess. And so I take this bar class at the gym, and it's like where, they use the bar and they use the weights and they do and this one class is on Tuesday night. They do a lot of this, like where you're like, doing short like this on your knees. Right. And I can't do it. If I do this on my knees, I mean, it is like pain. Right. So I don't do that. I either just kind of hold, or I do a different kind of exercise, or I modify it. And so somebody else in that class might be like, well, she looks completely fine. Why is she not doing the exercise that we're all doing? She looks like she's totally healthy, right? They don't know I've got these knees that are going to like send me over the edge. They don't know that I have inflammation issues. They don't know that I have nerve issues, that's like shooting something. You know what I mean? You don't know what somebody else is going through. You don't know what somebody else is going through at home. You don't know what somebody else grew up with that they are still dealing with. You don't know what somebody's going on in their relationship. And I've learned this, I think I learned this. This is one of the benefits of having a business at a really young age. I would go in and I would do, back then my first business is in direct sales, right? And so I would go into people's homes and we would share product and people would purchase. And it would be wild to me that the people who would walk in, who would have the designer purse and she looked all put together and the beautiful clothes and the jewelry and everything. And then at the end, you'd be sitting with that person and you'd be like, so, what do you want? And she'd be like, well, I love it all, but I can't afford any of it. Or that person would give you a credit card and you would think, wow, she's got it all together. You go to process the credit card and the credit card declines, right? And then the person who would come in who didn't look like they had very much, right? Kind of like didn't look like they had anything new, whatever. She would be like, oh, I want it all and paying cash. Like I learned early on, it was a great lesson as a young woman. Never judge somebody. You have no idea. People who I thought had perfect lives would join my team. I would start coaching them. I'd be finding out, their husband's husband had been having an affair for years and they were trying to get out of that situation. They were in abusive situations. They had, sick kids that you didn't know that they were dealing with. Like you have no idea what somebody's going through. When you start working with people and you start coaching them and you start getting into their lives to help them move into a better position or go after their dreams, and people start really, digging deep, you start to learn so much about people. And it was such a great experience as such a young woman because I learned very, very early on, never judge somebody's situation. You have no idea. Right. And so when I'm thinking about this little dog, this poor young dog who's like, why am I not getting a treat? Because she doesn't know. You don't know why somebody gets something that looks like a blessing to them, but it's because they need that to survive. They need that to grow. Like we don't, we're all here to learn different lessons. We're all here for a different purpose. We're all here to fulfill different reasons. Like I believe that if we're living and breathing right now, it's because we still have a purpose here on earth, right? If not, God would have taken us home at this point. So if we're still here and we're still living and we're still breathing, it's because God is like, I am not done with you yet. I have a purpose for you. You are here for a reason. Now, I think a lot of us don't necessarily go after that purpose because we make a lot of excuses to ourselves, and myself included, right? I'm too busy. I'm too overwhelmed. I have this going on. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. All of those things that we tell ourselves that we don't always necessarily fulfill the purposes and use the gifts. If you've hung out with me, you say that. I always say, if you have a gift and it is something that you were supposed to use and you die, your gifts and your dreams die with you. And we don't get, the rest of the world doesn't get the benefit of those gifts, doesn't get the benefit of those dreams. So we really have an obligation to step out of our comfort zone and do the things that we're called to do because they are meant to be gifts for the rest of the world, right? But how many of us are too busy looking at the other dog thinking she's getting a treat and I'm not? Without knowing anything that's going on behind that story, without knowing that dog is actually in a way worse place than you are, right? So it's just been curious. It's been something that's been on my mind all week. Every time I look at these dogs, I'm like, I wonder how often God is like, oh girl, you're comparing yourself. You're jealous about this, right? You're looking at her thinking she's getting this and you're not getting that, but you don't know. You don't know what I know. Like I look at that young dog and I'm like, you don't know what I know. I know about this old dog. I know that she's blind. I know she has dementia. You don't know that. Well, God's looking at us going, girl, you don't know that. You look at, oh, she looks like she got this and she got that and she got this promotion and she's got that big house and she's got that great family and she's got all the things that you think that you want. You don't know. You don't know. You actually have more than her. You're actually in a better place than her. You actually are healthier, have better relationships, we just don't know. And imagine if we all approached life where we were never jealous of somebody else, where we were never envious of somebody else, where we never compared ourselves to someone else. Imagine how different life would be, how our experience would be. And here's the thing, guys. I think this is easy to say, right? Like, I know I'm not supposed to compare myself to other people. I know that I'm not supposed to be jealous or envious of other people. That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that there aren't times where that happens. Like, I think even the best of us, that happens every now and then. Right? And this is where things like doing a gratitude practice truly come into play, because when we are really grounded in our own gratitude, when we're really starting the day grateful for all of the things that we have, we are less likely to feel those feelings of envy, jealousy, comparison, because we're so aligned with what's great for us, right? So I think that can make a big difference. But I'm curious, and I would love for you to tell me in the comments. And if you're watching a replay on this, tell me in the comments, like, have you ever been jealous or envious because you didn't know the other dog's situation, right? Are there circumstances right now where if you step back and you went, maybe I don't really know what's going on. Maybe God is looking down at me and doesn't really know what that circumstance is. I learned also early on, it's so funny how business teaches you so much, right? So having a business early on exposed me to a lot of really great mentors. And it's one of the gifts that I get to give back and mentor other people and coach other women and support other women who are starting businesses or building businesses. And one of the concepts you would have is, because when you're in business, you get a lot of no's, right? People are going to say no to you. That's just part of business. I think sometimes we think that we're going to get more yeses than no's, and it's the opposite. It's more no's than yeses. I remember years ago, oh my gosh, this is probably close to 25 years ago. I was in the house of one of my mentors, and this woman had built a multi-million-dollar business, right? And I was really young. I was new. I hadn't done much. And I remember saying to her, I was like, well, how do I get where you are, right? Like, how do I get to your position? That's what I want. And she looked at me and she said to me, Tara, when you've had as many other people tell you no as have told me no, you will have this position. And it really struck with me that the reason she had all of the success was because she had all of the no's. She had talked to so many people who had told her no that she had found enough that had said yes. And I just hadn't had enough people tell me no. And it really kind of was a flip my brain a little bit, that no's were no longer to be feared. No's were no longer going to make me feel bad. They just were part of building that business, right? So I really learned all of these really great lessons as a young woman. And it's one of the real big reasons that I think getting into something like direct sales is so great, because you get mentorship. You're starting a business, but you're not just on your own, right? Like, I didn't have any business experience, but it was kind of a plug and play. There were people who had figured it out. I just had to kind of follow a system. So I think that's a great place for people to start their first business. If they want to try business, if they want to learn how to run a business, I think a direct sales business is a great way to do that, particularly when you join with a company that's very well established, where people have had success, that's been around, that is not a fly by night. No one's trying to figure it out. Like, I remember I had friends who had joined a company. This was probably about 15 years ago. And it was a guy who they sold skincare products. And it was a guy who had been in retail. He had been in a retail boutique kind of high end, and the product was doing really well. And so he said, I'm going to take this into direct sales, right? This way I can really expand. But he had zero direct sales experience. He had never done a business to consumer. I'm in a B2C business, right? Business to consumer. He had never done a B2C business. He had done, it was all like business to business. It was all B2B. And then the business was doing it to the consumer, right? And so I remember looking through their marketing plan, and all these women were so excited, and they were going to make all this money, and they were traveling to go see him. And I remember I had been in the industry, right? So I'm looking at this marketing plan going, this is not going to work. This is a red flag. And of course, they did not want to look at my business, because they were like, oh no, this is the new hottest thing. And I'm just sitting there thinking, this is going to burn to the ground, which it did, which was unfortunate. And it was, I think the people meant well. I think the product was probably great. I don't think it wasn't a scheme or anything like that. It was just that it was somebody who really didn't have any direct sales experience and thought they were going to start a direct sales company, right? And so I do think it's important. We could do a whole other video of like what questions to ask. What do you look for? I will say, if you are looking for a business opportunity, if you're looking for an entrepreneurial venture, if you're looking to start your own entrepreneurial venture, your own entrepreneurial business within the direct sales industry, or with any kind of network marketing industry, I have a really good video. It's called Apples to Apples, and it's the questions to ask that you probably do not know to ask when you're evaluating these entrepreneurial businesses. So if you want that, just message me, DM me. I can send it to you, because that's a whole other topic. But one of the early lessons I learned within the no's is that no's are sometimes protection. Sometimes somebody saying no to me was God literally protecting me from somebody that I didn't need to be working with. That was going to be that client that gave you that huge headache, or was just constantly draining you, or just, a team member that was just going to be a rotten apple in a bunch, right? We know that you take one rotten apple, you put it in a bunch of good apples, and the rest of the apples are going to spoil, right? And so who we spend time with, who we hang out with, this is really important. It's very vital for our own mental health and for our own well-being, right? And so sometimes that no, I would always think, I wonder if that no was a protection no. It was a no to redirect me into a different place. All right. Well, we've been talking for a while. I will see you guys on Friday. I do want to let you know, if you have not grabbed this book, and you can go to this, I know if you're watching and it's the vertical, it's taragonline.com, and it's /links. That's that word that's cut off. It's links. I'll have to probably change the format on this, but it's links. Right at the top, you're able to get this. So Corey is a very good friend of mine, and I am very grateful. I feel like God puts people in your life who will change your life. And Corey and I met at the first networking event I had ever gone to. It was a terrible networking event. It really turned me off to networking openly, which is funny that now we do networking, because the event was so bad. And it wasn't because the event itself wasn't too bad. There were these men who were there that were just like super creepy and kind of throwing a business card at you. And it just really it was so not relationship building that it turned me off to networking. But I met Corey there. I remember, and you have memories that are like movies. I remember where I was sitting there with these two guys across the room who were at a high top table, and she was next to me. And she and I just hit it off. And at the time we both lived in Colorado. Now she lives in Australia. I live in New Jersey. But we just hit it off. And over the years, she has been probably one of the single most influential women in my life. And so she recently came out with a book. It is a bestseller. It's the bestseller in multiple countries. And she's taking what she normally charges people a lot of money to learn and work with her. And now you can get access to her in this book. So I am super excited. I just got mine. She's been working on this for 10 years. I will say this is 10 years in the making, and it's called Future You Activated, Embody the Woman Living Your 10-10 Life Now. And that's really what she does, is she takes people from like where they are into really where they want to be, but very quickly. She works a lot of energy, stuff like that. And I'll read what it says here. It says, the future to future you, activating isn't fixing what's broken. It's about remembering who you really are and aligning your identity so reality has no choice but to respond. Are you ready to become the woman who naturally creates everything she desires? So go grab this. It's in my links. You can get it. I'm super excited because for people who don't have a chance to work with her, and it's like on Kindle too. You can get it on Kindle. You're going to be able to get access to how she thinks, how she works to activate your life. And I think that's what we're really all here for, right? We're here to remember who we are, who God created us to be, not who the world has told you are, maybe who an ex-boyfriend or husband has told you that you are, maybe poor parents who told you this is who you are. But who did God tell you that you are? Who did He create you to be? So we'll talk more about this on Friday. Hopefully, you'll come back and join me live. But have a fabulous day.